What's going on, everybody? Ben94 here. Welcome back to Ben Builds. I'm so glad you guys have taken some time out of your day to go ahead and check out what I've got going here. This is episode number 5 for the Armstrong Whitley for the Bomber Command Buddy Build. Now today, guys, we're going to be starting off on the front fuselage area here. There's a little bit of a seam that we need to go ahead and sand down and get that ready to go for next episode. We also have to work on the wing nacelles. The wing itself is perfectly fine. Everything is nice and smooth and everything is together. We're looking great. But the nacelles, though, for the engines, those have to be installed. So we're going to work on that today. But first, let's go ahead and get out the jeweler files. Take care of this little step here. Now I noticed while taking my jeweler file here to the front seam, it's not going to be able to be removed because we'd have to take a lot of plastic off because there's a bit of a step there. So instead, we're going to go ahead and fill in that step with super glue. I really like using this technique because super glue dries super hard. You really can't crack it like putty. Putty will crack. And also it adds some structural stability to the area. So that is what I'm going to do with that. So we're going to put that aside and let that dry. Now, while that's drying off camera, I'm going to turn my attention over to the fuselage. We have to remove that seam that runs along the length, but I really got to make sure that I don't hurt the windows or remove any of the other masking. So we're going to use some blue tack tape right up there to protect the windows while we go to work on the seam with some jeweler files and some sandpaper. All right, guys, we're going to go ahead and move our attention over to the engine nacelles because these have to be assembled before we can hook those on the wings so we can fix up any gaps there, and then we can attach the wings and the fuselages all together, and we should be ready to roll. Now, next episode, we're going to probably start to assemble all these other little areas and get everything into a basic aircraft shape. But until then, we need to go ahead and make sure that these are going to go together well. So I'm going to go ahead and clean off all these little bits and pieces here, make sure that everything is nice and even, and then it fits together well. Now there is a firewall that goes up inside the landing gear bay, and that's going to blank off the back of where the engine would normally be. Now the engine nacelles themselves aren't too complicated. We have a right and a left side. We have a front firewall. We as well have an intake area, and we have some exhausts and some side vents. That's about it. So we're going to go ahead and clean up the parts, get these all nice and ready to go, and then we're going to start assembling everything, try to get everything worked out. One of the things I like doing when I'm working with these type of kits is I like hollowing out any sort of exhaust port or any sort of vent. I think that adds a nice little bit of character to an area and it gives it a bit of life. Now, unfortunately, my pin vise does not fit for this. The smallest drill bit I have is still too big. So we're going to have to go old school. And that, for me, is just an X-Acto knife, just a tip with hardly any pressure, kind of in a circular motion, drilling out slowly the different areas. So we have to do 3 of these on each side, so 6 total. Let's go ahead and get started and get this thing all ready to go. I went ahead and took the liberty of also hollowing out these side vents that kind of protrude from the sides of the engine. I think that's going to add even more character when you're looking at this from the front or kind of at the side angle. I think it really, really looks cool. So these are glued in, everything else is fitted, and we are pretty good in terms of fit. There's not really that many seam lines. There's a couple little areas you got to be careful of, but for the most part, we're looking pretty decent. So with that out of the way, we have to do one more of these, and that should be that. We can put those off camera, let those dry, and we can move on to a few other different places here and there. I do want to show you guys though how this fits onto the wing itself. So let me grab that wing here, and you can see right here, it just fits right up into that underside of the wing. There's a little bit of a gap here, but I think we should be able to take care of that with some very careful fitting. Now onto the actual nose cone itself. We have let this dry thoroughly. We are ready to go. I've got my jeweler file. Let's go ahead and start working down the super glue. Now super glue, it may dry quickly and it may be really, really nice in terms of filler, but I tell you, it is not always the easiest to remove. So you got to take your time, don't get too rash with it, and just slowly work layer by layer down to where you have the desired effect. I think at this point, this will put us in a really good position for taking care of that seam and also leveling everything out so it looks like it should. Not too shabby, guys. I've worked a little bit off camera. Again, it's a standard procedure, just sanding with my sanding stick. Didn't think you guys needed to see that. So we've got this pretty much dialed in, ready to go. The cockpit is done. Everything is looking great. So we have to do something kind of tedious next, and that is masking off the front canopies. Now, for masking off the canopies, we're going to be resorting to our tried and true method of Tamiya tape cut into small strips and placed strategically around the clear parts themselves. That's the best I can do. To be honest, if I had some liquid mask, I could employ that here. But as I said last episode, I don't have any liquid mask. I've never used liquid mask, so that's out of the question. But that's okay. Tamiya tape should work just fine. With our glazings all masked up, let me go ahead and show you guys how this is going to look. So we have the front nose area attached right there. We have the rear tail fuselage attached right there. Then we will have the engine nacelles. Let me go ahead and grab those and show you what those look like. We have one right here. And let me go ahead and grab the other one. And that one goes right here. As you can see, this is shaping up to be a really cool looking bomber. Then, of course, we have our glazings that fit right there. And then we have the nose cone as well that just kind of fits right in here. So you kind of get the general idea. But we're going to go ahead and call it here for today, guys. We've done a lot of work. We've masked off the front canopy. We've masked off the front nose cone. We've taken care of both nacelles. Those have to dry, and then we'll take care of any seam lines. So until then, guys, thank you so much for watching. We will see you back here next Monday for another episode of Ben Builds. Until then, guys, stay out of trouble, have some fun, get some bench time in, and we'll see you back here next week on Ben Builds.